Hello, New Orleans. You're listening to The Sports Coma, your new #1 podcast on everything Saints, Pelicans, and a lot more. And now, here's your host, Big Q and the guys.
Welcome back to The Sports Coma with Big Q and the guy. In this segment, we got through with our football talk. Now we're going to hit you with our boxing talk. And this is for all of our boxing fans out there that have been waiting for this recap. Now, of course, this past week in D.C., we watched the much-anticipated bout of Anthony Joshua, the 3-belt champion, going against the 1-belt champion.
That was a bout? I thought that was shot.
Joesph Parker. Of course, both guys undefeated. At the time, Joshua is 20-0 with 20 knockouts. Parker is 24 wins, 18 knockouts. So both undefeated champions collide in the ring for the first time. This is the first time in a while we've seen two heavyweights, undefeated champions with belts, fighting each other. It's been a while since that happened. But anyway, DC, we watched it. 12 rounds. It went to decision, a unanimous decision for Anthony Joshua. AJ won. Me personally, I hold my my comments to after this. But what would you? We watched the fight, man. What was your thoughts on this fight, AJ and Joe Parker, man? What was your thinking on it? Is your nose stopped up?
Nah, I was snoring.
Oh, that's what that is. I don't know what the hell you was doing. Okay, you went to sleep on it.
It was a snooze fest, man. It was a technical fight. Parker, in the beginning, I thought he stood a shot. He was scoring a lot of points, getting a lot of love taps. I didn't really see anything connecting. Anthony Joshua, every blue moon. When I say every blue moon, I mean like once every 3 or 4 rounds, he would get a real good shot on Parker. But it was a lot of, I guess, disappointment because of the expectations. You see Deontay Wilder fight, and you just think of the old time boxers. You start getting excited. Anthony Joshua was gonna fight. Oh, okay. So you remember when boxers used to show each other up, like I fought this guy, I knocked him out in the 7th round. You know what I'm saying? It's street cred and talking trash. So you're looking to see Anthony Joshua and Parker try to put on an epic fight, because the Deontay Wilder fight was a very good fight, a fight that I was mad I didn't record so I could go back and watch it again. But watching a fight like this, I was just kind of glad when it was over. I was like, oh, okay, Anthony Joshua won. Like I thought, okay, so what's next?
Well,
the undercard was actually more entertaining than the actual fight, which is pretty sad. I mean, it's a main event. They had 80,000 people in the arena. And maybe I'm exaggerating a little bit, but everybody talks about Mayweather fights and how he didn't do anything. I found Mayweather fights to be more entertaining than this one.
Yeah, well, you know what? You're absolutely right. This fight, well, I wouldn't call it a snooze fest, but it was one of those fights where everything
it was technical.
It
was boxing.
I would say it was more technical than anything, because Joesph Parker wasn't a stationary fighter like most fighters that stand in front of AJ. He didn't make it easy for Joshua. Right. Most fighters stand in front of AJ, and AJ just picks him apart. How he knocked Dylan White all around and all these other people that he beat. I think Joe Parker knew that he wasn't. If he was going to stand in front of AJ, that he could not be a whooping post for AJ, because he knew he wouldn't be able to take all of those punches that AJ hit him with. Now, of course, a bit of sour grapes for Joe Parker, because after the end of the fight, they asked about the punching power of Anthony Joshua, and he said, "Well, no, I've been hit harder by Andy Ruiz."
That's what he said.
That's what he said. The guy with the belly, the Andy Ruiz hit him harder than Joshua did.
I don't think Joshua really connected on one of his patented shots. Like, I saw a point in the fight where the referee, man, I don't know what the hell was wrong with that guy. That's
the next segment of my commentary.
He kept stepping in and messing stuff up. Like, we would get the fight going into a direction where, you know, a fan or us watching the fight will want it to go, where it's getting entertaining. They're starting to trade shots, and the referee would step in and break them up randomly for no reason. But anyway, my whole point was there was a time when they kind of got clinched up, and I mean, they weren't even holding each other for a good 2.5 seconds, and the referee steps in, and he almost got Joesph Parker killed because Anthony Joshua threw his patented uppercut, and he just missed him by like maybe an inch.
Yeah.
And he skinned him on side the face and kind of winked his eye. At that point, I was like, oh, we about to see something. Oh,
no.
And nothing happened after that.
Well,
but he never really connected and got him with one of them shots that we seen him land on everybody else. So I guess maybe Joesph Parker can feel that way because he ain't really fully connect. So I don't know about the guy with the belly though, man. I think he could have picked another reference.
Well, it might have been an insult to him to say that a guy with a pop belly can drill me, punch me.
I know, but I can't even take that. I can't take that serious, man. And then
Andy Ruiz was a champion. Now he took the belt from him.
He came out bumping Roy Jones. I can't be stopped. I knew he was gonna lose the fight as soon as I heard that theme song.
Hey, but listen, let me put it to you like this though, DC. You're absolutely right about when you was talking about the fact that it was a very technical fight. Now, of course, whatever went wrong went wrong with this fight. Of course, Anthony Joshua 3 times that I counted that he had to retape the tape that was coming apart on his glove. The referee's ineffective ability to referee the fight was an issue, and then you had the elusiveness, if I want to call it that, of Joe Parker, who was dipping and dodging and double jabbing, but not really actually hitting AJ, just trying to keep him away so maybe he could set up a punch for himself. Now we've seen a few punches that were landed, but I definitely don't want to see this fight again. I don't want to see Anthony Parker or Joshua again. It was one of those fights. Anytime you get a fight on the undercard, a heavyweight bout on the undercard that was everything that you thought this fight, the main event, was supposed to be, you most certainly do not want to see this fight again. I
think the most disappointing thing was, like, if you didn't know any better, you would have never thought that this was a championship fight where both people basically had belts on the line. You would have never thought that by looking at the intensity of it. I'm not saying they didn't want it, but it just was no fire to me, man. And that's really what I was expecting when you have the number 1 fighter and then the number 3 fighter was Joesph Parker.
Right. I think it was number maybe 2 or 3, one of the two,
depending on where you said it, man.
Where you have Ortiz at.
Right. But you said it, man, and you've been saying it all along. Like, and everybody says this cliche quote, styles make fights. Make fights, yes. I mean, maybe it's just one of those situations where the styles that these two guys have just didn't mesh well. I mean, it was almost like watching 2 middleweight fighters as opposed to 2 heavyweights. I'm used to seeing heavyweight guys. Everybody don't hit the mat, but somebody gonna get hit like they got hit with a truck. And I didn't really see that.
No definite punches. You seen a few stickers, but not.
Yeah, he got a few little shots, but I seen Anthony Joshua hit Parker, and he hit him, and it's kind of clean, but Parker just keeps walking into it and throwing combos and being active. I'm like, what the hell is this?
Right. So, but with that said, now we know Anthony Joshua did. He was talking a little smack after the fight about Deontay Wilder, and let's kind of look ahead for the remaining of this segment. We got a little less than 4 minutes remaining. Let's look ahead. Who does Anthony Joshua, of course, Deontay Wilder, wants to fight? He wants to make it happen. They're the only 2 guys with any belts that count. Of course, Dylan White won the platinum belt, whatever the hell that is. But the main fights, the belts, AJ has all 4 of the heavyweight belts, 4 of the 5 main heavyweight titles. Deontay has his belt here in America. And Anthony Joshua is posting high saying, if you want, I'm going to fight here in Europe, or we could fight in Cardiff. If you want to fight in Cardiff, we'll fight in London. Don't really care too much, even though his promoter, Eddie Hearn, is saying that sooner or later we're going to come to America to fight. And I've heard Jarrell Miller, Big Baby Miller is another guy they're looking at potentially fighting. Based on what you've been researching, who's the next fight for Anthony Joshua? Is it Deontay Wilder or somebody else?
It's definitely going to be somebody else. I would love for it to be Deontay Wilder, but as we know, doesn't Deontay Wilder have a title defense that's mandatory?
Well, I think unification trumps mandatories. So if they set up the mandatory the unification bout, everything else is off if they're going to do that. So nobody else wants to see anybody else fight anybody else except for the belts fight the belts. Bottom line. What's your take?
That's true, and I definitely want to see that fight. I think anybody who's a boxing fan wants to see the Deontay Wilder Anthony Joshua fight like before Parker. Like,
yes.
They wanted him bumped out the way, but Deontay Wilder is going around saying Anthony Joshua was ducking him, and Anthony Joshua is verbally saying that he wants to fight Wilder. So I think it's just a matter of time before it happens. Maybe the team of Anthony Joshua, I think they go find one of those guys where he can make him look impressive again, because this wasn't really an impressive victory for him. He had all knockouts on all his victories up to this point, and he actually won this one on a decision. And I guess as a true boxer, you actually want to win on a decision too, to show people you can go 12 rounds and actually fight technically and sound and still get the victory. And that's actually a lot of times what you have to do in a championship bout, because you're going to face a competitor that's worthy and that you have to take seriously, because if you make the wrong mistake going for the knockout, I mean, you could lose everything that you've ever worked for. So I definitely get it why this fight wasn't, I guess, entertaining as you would like it to be. So I see them finding an opponent of lesser caliber but still kind of maybe in the top 10 for Anthony Joshua to go up against.
Let me pose this question, because we did get a few questions via Twitter. And one of the questions that one of the people submitted to us was, is Anthony Joshua scared of Deontay Wilder? Let's answer that one right now before the break.
I'm going to say yes, but not in the way that most people would think. I think Anthony Joshua is scared of every fighter that he comes across, because he goes out admitting it himself. He's afraid to lose. So if he's afraid to lose, that means any opponent that he encounters, he has some level of fear of fighting them, because he doesn't want to lose, which can ultimately be a good thing if you know how to channel that and you don't let it overtake you or overcome your mind.
Okay, well, that was interesting as well, DC. When we come back on the other side of the break, that'll do it pretty much for this fight. When we come back on the other side of the break, we'll talk some more boxing news. We'll speak about what's next for Deontay Wilder. We'll also cover Alexander Povetkin's win over David Price. We also have some news on Triple G that we'd like to share, and his intentions to fight on May 5th regardless of who he's fighting. We'll talk to you about that. And more Deontay Wilder news is he's been investigated by the Boxing Commission for comments that he made about a body on his record during one of the morning shows. So we'll cover all of that on the other side of the break. You're listening to the Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys. Stay with us.
I'm a Saints and Pelicans fan, so the only podcast I can get my fix is The Sports Coma with Big Q. The guy's intense, funny, and they always keep it real.
Check out The Sports Coma with Big Q and the guys.